Hello everyone, it's Aquayemi-Claude here. Hope you're all well and welcome to today's Instagram Live. Another edition, and also one that's in acknowledgement of Youth Day yesterday, and also in regards to wonderful change makers that we have and fellow youth that I do know within the change making area. So our guest is going to be joining us. I'll be putting this information in the chat. I also wait for a few people to join. Hello, welcome.
Hello, welcome to everyone too as well, to myself, yeah.
And how are you?
Well, I'm doing well, thank you.
That's great to hear. First and foremost, I would love to ask if you could introduce yourself to my community and explain who you are. Thank you.
Yeah, so I am Portia Dery. I'm a Ghanaian writer, development worker, and social entrepreneur. I'm quite excited about promoting literacy activities for children. So I do run a non-profit organization called the African Youth Writers Organization that run reading clinics for children and low-income communities. I also write a bit of fiction here and there for children, and yes.
That's wonderful to hear. And what made you want to take action and get into writing, may I ask?
Yeah, so being an African, being a Ghanaian, I kind of like wanted to improve upon diversity, the children's stories we have in the global market. For children, African children, to kind of like read about themselves in books, to see themselves in the illustrations of books, to see their skin color, their hair type, the way they speak their language, their clothes and things. For me, I felt it's really important because growing up as a young girl, I didn't really get the chance to read books that reflected me, to read books that kind of like taught just thought about things in my surroundings. And so I grew up reading books about Snow White, European culture and stuff like that, which were very quite alien to what I was living in. And so I wanted to kind of like change that in my own story so that children elsewhere, even across the continent, can also pick books and say, well, African is not such a bad place. African is not about wars and salvation and stuff like that, sickness and all that, but it's a place where children can walk about freely. It's a place where there's happiness, there's food, there's water, there's light, there's computers, and we don't live on trees too as well. So it was just to change the narrative.
Yes, I love that. And would you say that there could be more opportunities as youth yourself, and also within the opportunities that could be given in education from your own experience when it comes to course books?
Yes, indeed. I mean, now things have changed greatly and things are indeed changing. People are kind of knocking down the walls and knocking at the right doors and, demanding spaces even when the doors are shut. So yeah, there's that room for growth. There's that room, that potential for us. It just means that we have to speak up more. We have to, use our voice well, and not play the victim card always. It's enough when you cry and complain, but also take action. Yeah.
I will share your book. And what I would love to ask is, what is the reaction that it's got? Has it really made youth and younger individuals feel really inspired and feel like they're able to see role models like themselves? What was the
Well,
response
as
like?
a writer, I hope so. Starting out, I started out, my hobby was really just to read books, to escape into, an imagination world and stuff like that. And then, I got right into the hobby of writing. So as a writer, I'm hoping that more children would read a book, and when they do, I don't want to prescribe what they should get out of the book, but for them to explore the book. But I've had really great feedback of children liking the story, and the story is original and organic. It's not forced on people. So I hope that parents and children reading it can share it as a lovely family book to read out to during their time. Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that. Can you turn on the light, please? Yeah, I am so sorry about that. I'm back now. But yes, so what I would love to also ask is, within how education is structured, especially in Ghana, what is the kind of, if you can give me like an idea of how education is structured there, or what you feel is kind of lacking, if
So
that's the case.
yeah. So in Ghana, we are quite fortunate because when you compare with the other countries, West African countries and other African countries, we quite have a high literacy rate. And then we have a comprehensive educational, I would say, policy. So right from kindergarten, nursery, to even senior high school, it's kind of like free. Children don't get to pay anything. Of course, parents will have to like buy uniforms, provide a stipend for food and all that, but it's free. But what I would say from my own point of view and perspective is that there's still a bit of inequalities, educational inequalities, when you compare some schools in a particular area and some schools in another area. So, for example, rural schools versus urban schools. Schools situated in the northern part of Ghana versus schools in the southern part of Ghana. So those, despite the fact that we have an overall a very good outlook compared to other countries, I would say when you do the internal analysis, we still have very vast inequalities. And when I talk of this inequalities, I'm looking at trained teachers, I'm looking
Mm.
at educational resources such as even classroom teaching resources, even the classroom themselves, furnitures and stuff like that. These are all the things I'm looking at, and I'm seeing that it's still not enough. And it's not right that some children, by the virtue of where they are born and their location, should are privileged to having some kind of quality education than some kids would have not so good of education just because of where they are born.
Yeah, and also having in mind of what you've just said, um, is there other, have you found that there's been enough support within, like, even the SDGs or global goals, and within the work that you do as well as a change maker within that education, or could there be more understanding within that area?
You mean in terms of like support or?
Yeah, the support of, like, you could say, of how the education system is structured in Ghana or anywhere else, would you say, from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think, and from in Ghana like this, for instance, I would say, yes, we've been able to kind of like um, almost encourage more parents to send their children to school. So we've not really had a lot of cases of where children are no more in school. So you find that almost every child in school. Of course, we still have children not going to school in hard to reach areas like the rural areas and stuff like that. But my main concern with the SDG goal 4 is that although children are in school, what are they really learning? Are they really learning what they are supposed to learn? And the quality of that learning is my concern. And I do know that even the pandemic has made that quality even more lacking. And schools are even trying so much to kind of like get back all the lost time. They are trying to make up for all the lost time, and it's not even that. So imagine a school which has all these inequalities, and on top of that, the pandemic came, and now we have like a financial crisis too as well. And they are saying that next year is going to be worse too in terms of economics, dynamics, and stuff like that. Imagine what that will do on education. It means that even there's going to be less funding allocated to it because the budget is going to kind of like cut down and stuff like that. So I'm saying that for poor children, or for children living in low-income communities, that's not an option. Parents sacrifice a lot to send their children to school, and for poor parents, they suffer even more to send their children to school. So for them to be in school and not learn anything, and I already know that, the World Bank report, I think 2018, which says there's a learning crisis, which much evidence still involving. Imagine, your child is just not learning anything in school. If a child, now I've met primary school children, junior high school, they can't read a paragraph. So that's really like a waste of investment from my point of view.
I couldn't agree even more. And would you say that, I think within the COP 27, would you say that there could have been more of an highlight on like climate inequality and of course the aspect of climate education? Because even though we're talking about the climate, there is that aspect where I'm aware that some other youth have talked about climate education. What's your views in that area, may I ask as well?
Yeah, I think, as I speak to you now, even where I am now, the place is getting hotter and hotter. And colder places are getting colder. Even some colder places are getting warmer. It's just like a mix of everything. You can't really tell what is happening again. And even during the farming season here where I am, which is a farming community, no one can really predict how the rains. First, we used to have a fixed pattern where we say, okay, maybe this particular month the rains will start coming, and then the rains would continue for a particular time. The farmers can detect and plant their crops. Now, no one can tell, They go and plant, and then the rain don't come anymore, and then they have to uproot everything and then wait again. So it's really having an impact, especially more for poor people. A rich person can afford to buy stocks of foods, grains, and store for years, 2 years, 3 years. But a poor person really doesn't have that luxury. So I think that, yeah, and tying to that, I think that climate, education is really important. People are doing their bit, but I can get a sense that sometimes young people feel a bit frustrated. There's no funding, and all the funding is going to, it's staying at the top. And they are just running around in their luxury 4-wheel drive, booking nice hotels. The expenses is going to first class, flights and stuff like that. But imagine what that money really can do for young people working on those issues at the grassroots. Imagine just even what a first class ticket for an entourage of 10 people would do when you quantify that, to give it to a young people working on, say, climate change education or climate change grassroots activity right there. So I feel that all the spending and the talk is just at the top there, and there's no really action down.
Yes, I agree. And this is the problem. And what do you think? Because, like, for example, in the UK, we have a budget coming up. And as we see, there is that big inequality issue. I can fully see that also with the global south, and especially like Ghana, there's that issue as well with inequality. So, as you were saying, climate education is really important. But also, would you say what would you want world leaders to act on immediately and make sure that they're able to address climate inequality?
I think first they have to pause and listen.
Mm.
And listen to young people working on these issues, young people who are in direct touch, you know, because sometimes there can be a disconnect if you are an elderly person and then you are sitting in your air-conditioned office. You wouldn't really like everything to you is statistics and figures, but they should really come down and listen to the farmers, the women, the children and stuff like that. So they should pause first and listen, and then let's get to the grassroots as well, because I think that the money really has to get to the grassroots. Other than that, we spend a lot of the money on, you know, workshops and consensus building. You know, I know that having such like a huge climate conference like the one we are currently having is really important, where we have head of states and all that. But I can just imagine the budget for that kind of thing. But imagine that money was used to really give it to the people who are doing the work. Sometimes I feel like even just with just a little amount of money, work can be done. But then the spending is right at the top with huge amounts. So I'm not saying the conference is unnecessarily, it's not necessary, but I really, you know, I'm looking at the expenses and all the empty promises that will come out. You know, they are going to give fine speeches, presidents of each. Our president is at that conference too as well, and then everything is going to be fine and prim and proper. But as to whether when they come home, they can. So I'm just really, you know, kind of like a little bit angry at the expense and preparations for that conference. And I'm just imagining if I had put in a grant application to be able to you know, do some tree planting in my village, would I be successful in getting the grant? No, certainly not. Yeah, but I do know that some of these world leaders would definitely be sleeping in world-class hotels right now, and guess how much the hotel bills is going to cost. They are going to be traveling with their secretaries and entourage, and they are going to be spending millions and millions, and if not billions of money for just that conference. But at the end of the day, what we are asking ourselves is there going to be some really tangible actions and impacts for us?
One last question I want to ask you is, do you believe in world peace?
World peace. Yes, of course. I think that peace is really important. It's even for us young people. We just want to live our lives. We just want to, you know, fall in love, go to bed peacefully, read our novels, go to work safely. But how can that be when selfish people at the top are, you know, kind of like manipulating things to suit their benefit? And sometimes it's quite frustrating. You just want to wake up and, you know, hustle your own hustle, as we say in Ghana here. But so many, you know, dynamic superpowers. And you tend to ask, is that really what we want? Is that really what the young people of these countries want? I think it goes back to the same point. Let's pause and listen to what we really want. Do we really want our countries to be that superpower? You know, for them to say, oh, you know, this country is really on top there. We really just want peace. We really want to have a good night's sleep and live our lives. So I think it's really important. And this time, they just stop and listen. And frankly, we are all just really tired.
Yeah, no, I could agree. And also, I just think that, you know, there is that time for transparency. There's that time to face the fact that we have inequality within our world. We don't have representation. And yeah, all I can say is thank you for sharing about what you are doing. You're doing really well. And I think all youth and everyone on this call, you keep on doing what you need to do, because we need to change that wave for change. Because there are people that unfortunately don't seem to listen or understand the importance of serious action. Thank you so much, Portia, for today. It really